a well-wisher, Dr.G.Baskaran. Before a formal welcome address, I must express my sincere thanks and gratitude to Dr. Baskaran for having accepted our invitation to address this webinar. Thank you, Anna, for your magnanimous acceptance of this offer. And I'm also very happy that you have given a topic which is the most relevant one of the day. Actually, what we thought of was to restrict the number of participants, but the topic and on the other side, the resource person, they both contributed to a lot of pressure to us to add more people. And we were very happy that this national webinar has now become international, because on seeing the list of participants, I was very happy to find people from Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Thailand, Hong Kong, South Africa, all joining us. We did not send any invitation to any foreign dignitary or scholar or faculty, but somehow they got to know about it, and getting the importance of the topic, they voluntarily joined, and I'm very happy about it. Anna, I'm really very happy that you are here amongst us to enlighten us. There are around 500 participants who have registered for this webinar, and all the 500 participants will definitely be benefited by your scholarly talk. Dear participants, on your behalf, I welcome Dr. G. Baskaran, Professor of English, School of English and Foreign Languages, Gandhigram Rural University. It's rather an institute, Tamil Nadu. He is a member syndicate of Alahappa University, another high-class university in Tamil Nadu. Dr. G. Baskaran was formerly a dean of Gandhigram Rural Institute, member in the Board of Management, and member in planning and monitoring of the same university. His academic credentials are so vast and immense that matching him will only be a dream for most of us. Thus far, he has produced 58 PhD scholars, and 2 of his scholars have now submitted their thesis, and 7 are pursuing. With regard to MPhil, he has guided 82 scholars. Imagine the way in which he has contributed to literature and the literary community. He has authored 7 books, 10 chapters in edited anthologies, 47 articles in edited volumes and proceedings, and unimaginably 113 papers in national and international journals. And I'm very happy to share with you the fact that he has evaluated around 180 PhD theses in his illustrious career. He has also done a project titled Diasporic Discourses, Displacement, Migration, and Cultural Exchange in the post-Rushdie Indian fiction in English. Moreover, he has given 98 invited talks. For want of time, I'm just limiting the academic credentials of Dr. G. Baskaran to this level, because I want to give him the floor so that all of us can be enlightened by his erudite scholarship. And dear participants, on behalf of you and on behalf of the principal of our college, on behalf of the faculty members of the department, I welcome Dr. G. Baskaran wholeheartedly. I also have the pleasure of having Professor M. Shekhar, our principal in charge, amongst us. Professor M. Shekhar, right from the first day onwards, when we planned this webinar, he was so very enthusiastic and encouraging to us that he was always asking us what is the progress of this webinar. And he has given the department more ideas on how to conduct this webinar successfully. Welcome, sir, for this webinar. And dear participants, you are the fulcrum of this webinar, and we are very happy that the response from your side is so immense, because our initial idea of restricting a number of participants have been dashed by your enthusiasm. Really thankful to you, and I hope this your interest, your energy level sustains through all the webinar series. Thank you, participants. And I also request you to watch our YouTube channel, Department of English Aided, Yadava College. It's a YouTube channel we have, and all the our lectures will be uploaded in the YouTube channel. So whenever you want to listen to Dr. Baskaran or any of the resource persons, you can listen to them. And once again, welcoming all. If I have left anybody else, please pardon me. I welcome you all for this webinar, and please help us, please cooperate with us in conducting this webinar in a grand manner. Thank you very much. Now, Uma, you can carry on.
Yeah, yes, sir. Thank you for your warm welcome, sir. Now I invite our beloved principal, Professor Segar, is to deliver the presidential address. Sir, the session is over to you, sir.
Good evening, good morning to everybody. On behalf of our Yadava College, it's a pleasure for me to welcome our resource person, Dr.G.Baskaran, an eminent professor of English from Gandhigram Rural Institute, Dindigul. He attended 54 seminars, and his invited talk goes up to 98. I think this is his 99th invited talk. Welcome, sir. So English is important for us because knowing English increases your chance of getting job in our country as well as in abroad. Learning English is important for socializing and entertainment as well as work. English is a must because it is a global language. Many scientific papers are in English. So English is a language of internet, and it is important language for business and help us to assess multiple culture. Now, our guest is going to give innovative ideas about writing in English literature dissertation. I am sure this lecture definitely be a useful one to our students. Now, it's my request to our students to listen to his speech carefully and gain sufficient knowledge. No doubt, definitely it is useful for your careers. Again, I thank our guest for his immediate acceptance, and thanks a lot to our English department HOD, Dr. Raju sir, for his efforts in conducting this webinar as a series 1. And my sincere thanks to our English department staff, Dr. Devaki, Professor Marish, Rathinam, Umadevi, and Nagasankar for their wholehearted support in organizing this program. Finally, I thank our students for their participation in this program. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you very much, sir. The fragrance of flowers spreads only in the direction of wind, but the goodness of the person spreads in all directions. Now I invite Honorable Chief Guest Dr.G.Baskaran, sir, to address the gathering. The session is over to you, sir.
Good morning. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello, Raju.
Morning, sir.
Raju, good morning. Raju. Am I audible?
And some technical.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Your voice is audible, sir.
Sir,
Sir, your mic is off.
Hello.
Sir, your voice is audible, sir. Sir?
I request Dr. Baskaran, sir, please unmute your mic, sir, because it is in mute.
Is it okay now? Is it okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is audible, sir.
Okay. So excellent morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for arranging such an excellent meeting at this COVID situation. I should thank personally Professor Raju, my brother, for making this possible. I acknowledge the way the principal of Yadava College has given a warm introduction and also a good beginning for an excellent session there in Yadava College. Maybe that from the English department that this is the first one via internet, if I am right.
Yes.
Yes, Raju. And the week back, that I was approached by my brother Raju, and I said, instantly yes. And he asked me, to give a lecture on writing and about on research methodology. I felt, instantly, it is very tough because traditional method, would be nice. A chalk and a board, and yes, filling the board and make people, understand what actually research is, what is writing. And correlating, these two concepts, research and writing, very tough, online. Every time, that I love to use, a board, or at least, I make, the people turn the pages and look into pages. But in a way, that this is a COVID situation and everyone is at home and looking for, something very eager, what people, at the other end, are doing. And find that instantly I agreed, upon, the good, request, from Raju. Thank you, Raju, again, for making this possible.
Thank you.
I ordered, my topic, in a way, writing and English literature dissertation. The first question, came to my mind is, how is an English literature dissertation different? Simply, I can say, writing. So you take, any example from any discipline, right? Sociology, economics. Sorry, I am making, the subjects, specific. But the experience, I am sharing, with you, right? So after 150 and odd thesis evaluation, and more than 300 or something, like thesis corrections, still I'm doing it, learning, the art of, writing and improving, my writing. Still I'm saying, that I'm not 100%, accurate in my writing. I'm learning, day by day. That is the way. So writing is actually, the first component, came to my mind, right? That is different. You read a page of any thesis other than, English. You understand immediately, right, that there is something, is missing, right? I'm not talking about creativity, no. Creativity is not essential, for research. Creativity is something, a separate genre. But here, writing, the way it is going, writing, the way it is going, and that you are presenting your arguments. So this also, is very, very important. And you are very careful, right? You are actually, working for, a schedule. A structure, that you are making. That is very important, right? The structure that people must be able to understand what actually you are trying to, pass on, right? The message. Or what is your research output? How you are making others, understand your research. Your ideas, right? So the first one is, writing, and the second one, is presentation. These two are, very, very important, right? And this actually, these two are the differences, right? And the third one, I'm adding a bit. I'm not, a jargon specialist, right? I'm not a Thomas Pynchon like, right? A postmodernist. You find it, very difficult, right? 3 days back, I listened my friend, Professor Ravichandran, IIT Kanpur, speaking on postmodernism. As a student, I observed and I listened what actually he, tried to explain, and I understood, so many things. The way, that he argued, I was able to understand, he referred, so many dictionaries. Normally, we researchers refer, books related to our research. But he has gone beyond, that is. He has gone out of his research, searching something else, to understand more of his research. So Thomas Pynchon's novels, it is carrying, something science, mathematics, economics, sociology, politics, so many disciplines, Very tough to understand. Mathematics, it is also there in a novel, right? An equation you come across, unless, you break it, unless you understand it, it is very difficult. So he referred dictionaries. And finally, he talked about, American slang dictionary. That is also very essential, right? Because he has used, Thomas Pynchon, has used, so many slangs, He wanted to understand those also, those slangs also, in order to make, this research, good, effective, and understandable to others. And that's why, I am taking, the third component. Your language, should be very simple and it should be very loose, right? Suppose I use, something, very, very big, that is a sentence, runs, that like a page. A sentence, like, runs like a page, it is a page, in fact. Or the other way you can say it, Renaissance in India, Sri Aurobindo's. Very tough, that a sentence runs, that is for 3 pages. And 3 pages, that by the time you come to the third page and then, coming across a period mark, a full stop, right? A period mark, right? You forget what happened, there in the first page. You don't have any idea, and you may not be able to link, what happened, that in the first page and what actually happened there in the second page and the third page, and what actually he try to explain Aurobindo. All these are, involved. So English literature dissertation is different. So to my understanding, right? I'm saying, right? To my understanding, I'm saying that these 3 components, are something, very, very, very important. Writing makes a major difference. Presentation of arguments, and finally, simple and lucid style. So 3 stages, that is in writing. a dissertation. So the first stage, is something planning. That is the other way, that you can call it as, getting started. So planning is, very, very important, right? Normally, that we held up, that in the first word of our research. I'll tell that how we can make a move, like. So your idea should be, something on your research, and what you'll have to do is, you have to begin. That's all, because of 2 years or 3 years or sometimes, 5 years of, hard work. And you find it, very difficult to start, that is. What to do, first. Let me tell you, that, and make it sure, that is not your first sentence, right? The first stage, that, writing should be, like, you should try to explain, what your title, right? And normally, title carries, 2 or 3 or 4 components, right? Nowadays, the children are scholar children. I'm talking about scholar children. They are fond of using, something, the components, the concepts, more in titles, right? And particularly, those who are working on, feminism or gender, right? And they find, words, when they are going through the text, secondary sources. All those words, that they want to do it, they want to actually make it, available, there in the title. So you created, something, a title, and now your first job is, to explain, the title. You explain, you define, the concepts. Maybe, you can make this with dictionaries or the theoreticians. They have actually, enormous work, that they work a lot, and then they have given, something, in form of, the books, seminal works. Say, for example, second sex, is there. And politics of postmodernism is there. And yes, there are so many things that are available, right? So getting started, is something important, that is plan. And number 2 is putting it, all together. Now, what is this? This is simple, right? Together. Putting it all together, that means, it is together. And writing it out. What you are writing, what you are trying to say to others, say, that to others. And this is actually, the third category, right? Getting started, putting it all together, and then writing it out. That is simply, writing. So 3 plus 3, right? Now, how different, your thesis is, English thesis is, and the 3 stages, in writing, a dissertation, that is, the primary concern, right? The base. Now, there are some basic needs, Without these needs, that you cannot make a move. You cannot take a step, further, right? Supervisor selection is there, choosing a topic is there, and finding information is there, and a survey, is very essential, right? Survey. What type of research it is, whether it is in reality or novel or short story or something like, right? A survey is, very essential. What do you mean by a survey, right? This is simple, right? That you are having, something, how effective, your child is, a child means, that a student, right? How effective or how efficient, the child is, capable of making, a word, pronounced, right? How effective or how efficient, the child is. You want to make a survey, right? Now you give a word to a child, and then the child is actually, presenting it, in various forms. And at last, as an observer, you are trying to say, that this is right. And very difficult, pronunciation is for us, it is not our mother tongue, and I may commit, so many mistakes. Yes, that people are making, mistakes, and everyone is, the learning. Everyone is, learning, right? And a broader survey, that you have to conduct. Draft, a preliminary thesis statement. Right? So I'll come to that, one by one, right? How to make, a statement. And the draft, right? Writing the first draft. And your final draft. Between first draft and final draft, what you'll have to do is, revise it. Right? Pruning, that is. points. Not that, you are simply writing it and then handing over everything to your mentor, guide or supervisor. What he or she, immediately, does is, upon going through the first sentence, that he gives it back to you, come on, you revise and then give it to me. You children, sometimes find it difficult, right? If you have done it, just like, our mothers often say, or wives, often say that, I am cooking and I am eating, that is very, very difficult, right? If you are, most of you are, from Tamil speaking stage, that I can tell it in Tamil also, right? Nane samachu nane saapru. So when you say, that this is something, very important, and this is very essential, that is actually, how essential, how important, you have to prove it. So between first draft and the final one, that what you'll have to do is, you'll have to revise, prune it, read it again and again, right? As guide and mentor, that suppose you take, me as an example, you can, I simply, ask my children, right? Most of are here now. I was able to see, their names there in the list. And whether they experience or not, that I take care of my children's, drafting, everything. Because it is pleasure doing it, that when you are helping them, in that, that you understand, more. You learn more. That is a good one, Right? Now the title, I told you, right, how it should be, framed. Getting this right is more crucial than you may think. Simple, right? Manchu Kapoor's novels, a critical study. Manchu Kapoor's novel, a critical studies. Or Manchu Kapoor's select novels, a critical study. Or a feministic read. So casual, it comes. So casual it comes. Title comes. You think, it is, getting this right is, more crucial than you may think. So if you decide on a title, which is too vague, you run the risk of the dissertation lacking focus. You know that, it is something, vague, something, is missing. And in course of your research, that you find it, the research focus is, missing. And the doctoral committee meeting, the members, the first meeting, that you give the title, they approve. And after 2 years, that you find, that something is missing because you find, that there is a lack of, cohesion or focus. And you are not making, any points, worthy of note. What is the use? Ultimately, that you, in the second meeting, you present your, issue. You present, that the title is not, that good. Suppose if I add, something, if I delete, something, I think, the focus I may be able to give. The cohesion, I may be able to add, or specific points, that I'll be able to do it. So the titles, what I mean, that it is the thesis title as well as, the titles of the chapters. Most of the titles of the chapters, are like sentences. It runs, 2 lines. It's not, that advisable. It is my perception I'm giving, my views, I'm giving. If you ask Professor Raju, my brother, if you ask the guides, throughout, the globe, sorry, they may, something, go for it. Whatever it is, you can ask, your supervisor, guide, that, yes. But my suggestion, if you are having, that a phrase, that a group of 2 or 3 words, right, title would be, very, very catchy. It should not be decorative. Ornamentalism, that we should not bother. We are not actually, writing a creative piece, no. For creativity, that is essential. That is very essential. Naming is, very essential. But for titles of research, that is different. So in the organization of the thesis, right, you have introduction, review of literature, body of the thesis, conclusion, what's cited like. Now you may be tempted to ask, sir, without giving any definition for research, that he is actually, delivering, the lecture like. So my idea is, research is an organized and systematic way of finding answers to questions. That's all. See, the moment that you get into research, and the moment you choose the title, you get enormous questions, right? You become first the audience. Actually, you are taking part there in a. Yeah, you are taking part in a viva. In viva, that PhD viva not normally what actually that happens. Observation, that you, present as an audience. The candidate presents. Upon hearing, the candidate, that you present your observations, either in the form of appreciation or questioning, or sometimes that you give them something more motivation. Like yes, it happens. So the first time that you frame the title, the moment after framing the title, you get enormous questions. If you are getting questions, that means that you are getting into a good research. There is no question. So someone else already done, and you slightly alter the title. You don't get much questions. Much questions. So research is an organized and systematic way of finding answers and questions. Systematic because there is a definite set of procedures and steps which you will follow. There are certain things in the research process which are always done in order to get the most accurate results. Now you may be tempted to ask, what is then organized? Organized in that there is a structure or method in going about doing research. It is a planned procedure, right? It is a planned procedure, not a spontaneous one. You are not Wordsworth, right? You are not Wordsworth. See, nowadays, it is postmodern situation. And you will not get, the answers, for the questions, that you developed, in the beginning of your research. In a postmodern thing, that you don't get answers, for your questions. Maybe you leave, that findings, for further research, like, scientific. Okay. So finding answers, is the end of all research. That's all. But postmodern, is something, different. The other, that is coming. Right. So before a review of literature, that you have to write, something, a hypothesis. So this is also, a serious writing, right? The hypothesis is used in an experiment to define the relationship between, two variables. Now, what is the purpose of the hypothesis? It is to find an answer, right, to a question. A formalized hypothesis will force us to think about what results we should look for in an experiment. So there are two variables. One is independent variable. And this is the part of, the experiment that can be, changed and tested. It happens first and can be considered the cause of any changes in the outcome. So the outcome is called the dependent variable. The independent variable in our previous example is not, out of a test. A hypothesis, should be framed, in such a way, right? It should answer, a question. So this is something, like, say for example, right, I give. Suppose you are making a statement like this: not studying may cause a lower grade on my test. Do you find any clarity here? I repeat. Not studying may cause a lower grade on my test. So clarity is missing. Suppose you make, an attempt of changing this. If I do not study, then I'll make a low grade on the test. Hope you understand? Bit clarity, is added. But the cause is, very simple. Cause is very simple. Maybe, further one more, that is an attempt, you are making. If not studying lawyers test performance, and I do not study, then I'll get a lower grade on the test. Okay, understand, now? So the first statement, that you made is not studying may cost a lower grade on my test. The second one is, if I do not study, then I'll make a low grade on the test. And the third one, final outcome, is if not studying lowest test performance and I do not study, then I'll get a lower grade on the test. Raju, I'm making a personal one, please call Kadresan.
Oh, okay.
So now, that we are getting into review of related literature. Review, gives proper direction in formulating the hypothesis. See, the last sentence, out of the three sentences, again, I read, if not studying lowest test performance, right? So where this review of literature, comes, review of related literature. So I told you that I have evaluated more than 150 theses, like very, very minimum, scholars, that is. They try to present, what is called, this review of literature. Why we are making, right? I'm just reminded of, that Life of Milton, Dr. Johnson. You remember all, right? You are all, most of the audience here are teachers, and you might have got, that experience of reading, the text, Life of Milton. Very beginning, is very important. Dr. Johnson, begins saying, I have gone through the already available text on Life of Milton. 6 texts, that he has written. Right. 6. And after that, he tells, I am making, yet another one. Adding here, in my book, whatever is, missing, you find. Whatever is missing there in the early 6 books, that I am making it available here. Aryabhajadika comes. So review, is helping, people to get into a proper research. And that will certainly, helps you, to phrase or frame, what is it called, hypothesis. So review helps in framing the objectives. And also, you can decide, the method accordingly. So review helps in framing the objectives and deciding the method accordingly. It also assists in comparing the findings of the previous studies with the findings of the present one. See, you tell, sometimes, that you tell, I don't know how to begin. Not that, you're dejected, disappointed. You read, so many books, you might have gone through so many texts, related texts, sources, secondary sources. But the problem comes, that how to begin. My suggestion, is, so whatever, it is, you can attempt, of defining, you can make an attempt of defining, the title first. Or else, that you can land, straight away there in making, the review of related literature. Because you read, some books related to your study. And finally, you try to say that, not that, every literature earlier I presented, come close to my study. Mine is, entirely different. So, it is also a good beginning of, writing. So, review assists in comparing the findings of the previous studies with the findings of the present one, right? Review helps in understanding the limitations of the study in best possible way. Inevitable, right? Limitations, inevitable. Don't think, that I made a report on a thesis, stating, that these are all actually, some of the limitations, I come across in the thesis. No, don't worry. It is good in a way. That will be certainly, an opening for a future scholar. that will actually give, some space for future studies. So review helps to avoid repetition and duplication. It also helps in writing and presenting of a research report. See how essential it is. In the introduction, that you have to make it. After explaining or defining your title, after giving, an intro to your author and his or her works, you are making, this setup. But forget about, the structure in the beginning, right? If you don't have any, way to begin, you can start with, review of literature also, right? Don't give, the summaries. So your professor, your guide already knows what is actually in the assigned readings. Unlike, a school, high school, where you got, credit for proving to your teacher that you actually did the assigned readings. In colleges, in the research zone, right, the assigned readings are not nearly as important as what you do with them, right? Writing mere summaries, that you find, that it is so easy. So very, 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 humorously, people say, right, if I choose, something, a novel, writing, the thesis is, very easy, right? So you are not making any interpretation, right? Interpretation, in a classroom, of graduate children and postgraduate children, with them, that you can make. Give the summary and then go like, right? That is okay. But summarizing the plot is an easy way to knock off, half of a page. That means, 200 pages of a research. If you write, the summary of the novel, and my suggestion here, I'm adding, one more, right? You choose, 3 novels, 3 chapters, you make. No, it is not advisable, right? It is my perception. Again, I'm telling. Anyhow, that you'll have to discuss. Just like, MLA handbook 7 or 8, wherever they make, a decision like, that they leave it to your guides, advice. So you consult with your guide, right? See, suppose you are writing, a chapter on a novel like any novel, right? Any novel, and you name, like gender relations in a novel. So it becomes an essay, right? It's not thesis. And 3 chapters, that means, 3 essays. Thesis writing, is suppose you choose, 3 novels, that's fine. That is what. And there are some common concepts, that are actually, available. 3 novels and the novelist, that made use of, 3 components, in all the 3 novels. You make, 1 chapter. Likewise, you search for, 2, 3. And make a mix-up, right? That is pure research. And you will be able to consolidate all those things, there in the conclusion chapter, right? Summary, summation. It is actually, easy. It is easy. Maybe, that you find it difficult in the beginning. And that's why, that you choose, like each chapter, each novel like. No. So, summarizing, the plan is an easy way to knock off half a page. And summarizing a book chapter that focuses on your topic is an easy way to frame an argument. But your professor knows, your guide knows that it requires much more mental effort to apply what you learn, to analyze the situation. So analysis, is very, very important. Right? To synthesize opposing viewpoints, to evaluate an argument. Summarizing, is a very simple intellectual task. So as researchers, right, your intellectual task, should be something different. Maybe I suggest, you you to write, in a simple and then lucid language. It is my humble suggestion, right? Make your readers, understand what is you are finding. Okay. That is useful. But summarizing, better avoid. Now comes, presentation on the thesis. Right? Presentation of the thesis. You all know that, it is something, that is available very well, there in MLA handbook 7 or 8. Double spacing, right? Double spacing. Except long quotation and footnotes, that are not, now available footnotes, that we are not making, but in certain theses, right, where you make use of the slangs, right. Square brackets, better avoid, your personal remarks and personal writing, should be avoided. There are some scholars, that they open instantly, the brackets or square brackets and then add, something. They're giving, further, uh, note on that, like, you better avoid certain things, right. You take it, to the end, right. The slangs, suppose you are using, I told you, right. You can give, the footnotes, right. So each page, at least, should have, 27 lines. But make sure, that you will have to have, something, a discussion with your guide. Absurd, well-balanced margins, of 1 inch at top. And don't depend, on your computer's advice, right? Better, that you make, everything, a scaled one, right? You measure, that. You measure. And that comes, something, the beauty, right? The real one. The real one. Do not write justify, right? Write justification. Right, justification, better avoid. Do not divide words at the end of the line. See, length of each type line is a maximum of 6.5 inches for a paper. 6 inches for a thesis. Why for a paper that is 6.5? Wherein that there is no binding for a paper, research paper. But for a thesis that you are binding that half inch that is you are leaving for binding. So 6 inches, that is your thesis. In the first line of every paragraph, 5 spaces. So you are using, the tab, that means, it makes its own space. So better, you count and then immediately control, save. Right. So there won't be any issues at all, right? You count the space, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then start. So intend, the first line of every paragraph, 5 spaces. Now short quotations. Short quotations, what I mean is, below 4 lines. Short quotes, should be located within the text and enclosed by double quotation marks. Short quotations. Single quotation marks are for quotes within quotes. Mind you, gentlemen, ladies, right, we are actually, according to 8th, that you are using, or 7 you are using. Whatever it is, the consistency you have to maintain. Sometimes, for a praise, malapropism, for example, right? You give, double quotations. And another page or some pages, after, that you give malapropism again, single quotation, or you don't give, the quotation marks. So consistency, is missing. Better use, the same pattern, In the beginning, you are using, one pattern, that means, till the end. Right? Ellipsis marks like. So you handbook, that whatever, it says, and after getting, the concurrence of your mentor, you better, use, the mains. So the source of the quotation, right, must be written in parentheses immediately after the closing quotation marks. See, this will include also, you'll have to open, the works cited column, towards the end. So whatever, that you use here, your source, immediately, you have to take, the details, to the works cited. Don't be lethargic, that, we'll see after, right? After writing the thesis, we'll take, every page and then make it, by the time, that you become tired. And you want to make it, in a hurry. You want to finish, that everything and then give it in the hands of the guide and then, please sir, take care and I'm taking rest. Like, no. So, by the time, you open, something, a quotation, all relevant details, that you'll have to take it, to the website. You can work on, the alphabetizing everything, after that. But you take, the content, the details of the content, instantly to the last page, website. Don't forget it. That is very, very easy, when you finish your work. Right. But before the main punctuation that closes, the sentence, or class, MLA handbook, is very much, supportive of this. Or APL method, that is, use it that also. So, leave one space of all punctuation as follows. Even punctuation is a word like. You use the comma after that, you space. So, after commas, colons, and semicolons. After punctuation marks at the end of sentences. After periods that separate parts of a reference, citation. Period mark, you are using, you give a space. After the periods of the initials, in personal names. But there are some exceptions. Right? You are 10 o'clock, you are printing, right? That AM, A after that, a period mark, AM, no need to give space. Right? Example, like E dot, G dot, comma, AM, A dot, M dot, over. That is I, abbreviations, that you are using. I point, E point, period mark, and then comma. US, U dot, S dot, period. Right? So this is the way, extension is also there. And abbreviations, the moment, there. Don't use abbreviations, in your writing, Aren't, don't, won't. This should be avoided, right? This should be avoided. It is not, that you are involving in colloquial discussions, right? No. In colloquial expressions, you may be allowed, but not there in the writing. Same time, that you are quoting something in the quotation, you come across, okay. And you can go to the extreme of giving, the SIC mark there. Square bracket, you open and then SIC, SIC small. No capitals, please. Right? And commas and periods are placed inside the closing quotation marks. Comma, period marks, inside, the closing quotation marks. Colons, semicolons are placed outside the closing quotation marks. Colons and semicolons. Commas and periods inside the quotation marks. And colons and semicolons outside. No question marks and exclamation marks. Not originally in the quotation. Not originally in the quotation. Go outside the quotation marks when they are part of the quotation. They go inside the quotation marks. Right. Two things. Not originally in the quotation, go outside the quotation marks. When they are part of the quotation, they go inside the quotation marks. So these are all available there in MLA handbook. Nothing that I'm making new one. No. But we don't check, right? We don't go and then search, all these things, times. You think, that these punctuation marks are not that essential. And the thesis, that you are making, we are not making use of it, right? All those things. See, comma is, very essential, right? Comma is, very essential, the punctuation. You get, the clarity in reading, clarity in understanding. The readers, they don't get any confused. They don't feel like, they are left in a vague situation, right? So you better, make use of, even the punctuation. Punctuation, supports a lot, right? So I come across thesis like, and hyphens, right? How we are making, between hyphen and dash, right? And minus. These three are there. Hyphen, dash, minus signs. Or each type, different. Say for example, hyphen. Use no space before or after. Right? Hyphen you are using. Use no space before or after the word. For example, trial by trial analysis. So trial, space, hyphen, by, hyphen, trial. Trial by trial. No need to give space before or after. dash. Type as two hyphens with no space before or after. Dash you want to use. Say for example, studies published and unpublished, or studies published and unpublished. So after studies you have to use double hyphen, right, as two hyphens. After, unpublished, again you have to use two hyphens. Now minus A minus B. A space minus space B. So these three are, very, very essential. Big confusion, right, arises. Better consult, the Bible is very near, right? The MLA handbook, is very near. So page number. Page number, that you are getting. Page numbers, that you are getting. That means you will have to make it, very, very sure. You will have to make it, very sure. Page number should be typed, half an inch, from the top and 1 inch from the right edge of the page. But you get your concurrence from the guide. I suggest, to my scholars, better right, bottom, end. It is easy. It is easy, that we feel like. So little writing tips, that is, I give. So I have already, given the handout, to my friend and brother, Raju. We will certainly, send, through all these things, through your email ID or WhatsApp, like you'll be getting it, soon. So your thesis should conform, to the following norms. Use appropriate verb tenses. Better use, the active voice when it is less wordy and more direct than the passive. Active voice, is something very, very essential. Avoid informal wording. Don't address the reader directly. Don't use jargon, slang terms, or superlatives. Slang terms, that suppose your research, is something, carrying, such things, you have to use it. There is no other option. Be brief. Right. Wordiness, obscures your message, annoys the reader. So keep in mind why, that there are some people, that they are not, able to come up and then sign, that good. Writers, I'm telling you. Right. My friend and my scholar brother, that helped me a lot, reading textbooks, novels. He reads and then after that, that he sends, to me. Anna, this is good. I read. The taste, right? The taste, that. When someone says, it is good at reading, right? I feel like, that I don't want to, waste my time, like. Instantly, comes. I read and then I enjoy and then immediately, I call him and then thanks for, sending the book, like. So, in Tamil novels, that is no such worry, that you come across, right? You can omit, in thesis writing, these sort of phrases. These sort of phrases, right? It has been found there. It has long been known that. It is interesting to note. See, these are not thesis writing. It is worth mentioning. It may be said that it was demonstrated that these things, that you'll have to, get rid of. Omit phrases such as already, stated. That is also wrong. As already stated, it has been formed that it has long been known that it is interesting to note that, right? These things, that you'll have to avoid. And use single words instead of phrases sometimes. A number of, research. That is wrong. Many research. Several research. Right? A small number of. That is wrong. Now what else, you can use a few. Are in agreement. Better use agree. Are in agreement. Why, that you are worried? Agree. Are found to be. Are is working. At present. Why at present? Now. Of great importance. Why of great importance? Why, that superlative? Not necessary. Important. And there are so many things, internet, is supplying all those things, right? Don't try to impress people by using words. So you are writing the thesis, that you need not impress, the other group. Don't try to impress people by using words. Most people have never heard of. Do not use contractions. For example, don't must be do not. I told you, that abbreviations, right? Isn't it? Isn't. Is not. Ensure quotation marks are had. And in no way, that you start, your argument like, section 10 discusses. You better discuss. Don't allow the section, to discuss. Right? And likewise, that you do have, so many things. A lot of. Don't say like, absolutely, or going to. These are all, something very, very damaging, your writing. Your writing style, is spoiled because of these sort of usages. I would like to do wrong. On the other hand, better avoid, right? Nowadays. So avoid numbers starting a line. Avoid starting a paper or section by quoting material. It is best to provide, some context first. Avoid numbers starting a line. That is very important. Avoid starting a paper or section by quoting material. Don't start a sentence with also and, but, especially, so, especially, whereas, yet, then. So when starting a sentence with therefore, however, moreover, hence, don't overuse these words. Apostrophes, don't use for plurals. So 1970s. So don't use the apostrophe for plurals. 1970s, is better. Don't use a slash. Don't wax, lyrical. Like example, right? Today, technology has made life very easy. Computers are fast. People are happy. These are all lyrical, right? We are not writing, poems, poetry. So yet all needs, a full stop. After all, AL. Yet, space, AL, stop. Numerals, For numbers less than 100, try to write a number out in words, especially numbers less than 20. For example, write 2 items rather than 2 numeral items. And make large numbers easier to read by inserting a small space. Like the mobile numbers, like 850 space 123 space 456. No need to worry about, using commas, here. Commas were essentially allowed to use, not here. Right. So I have given, right, a long, lengthy list of, avoiding things. Cliches, you avoid. Cliches. It's wrong to ever split, an infinity. Don't use, a sentence with a conjunction. Prepositions are not words to end sentence with. And the verbs, that you are using, should agree with your subjects. There are so many people, committing mistakes. Subject-verb arguments. Hurry say. They says. Right? Tom and John say. Tom and John, says. Sometimes, Baskaran et al, says. Wrong. Baskaran et al, there are other people involved. Say. Also, always avoid annoying alliteration. Be more or less specific. Fragments, should be avoided. No sentence fragments. Do not be redundant. Do not use more words than necessary. It is highly superfluous. Comparisons are as bad as theses. Right? One-word sentences. Eliminate such things. The passive voice is to be ignored. I told you, better use an active voice. Eliminate commas that are not necessary. Parenthetical words, however, should be enclosed in commas. Never use a big word when a diminutive one, would suffice. I simply, told in the beginning, that don't use jargon words. Use words correctly, regardless of how others use them. Someone else, use, I'm using them. Eliminate quotations. As Ralph Waldo Emerson, said, I hate quotations. Tell me what you know. I used to know that mothers say, Nane samajhu, nane sabha. That is easy to understand, right? So I used to know something, and in order to explain that, right, I'm making it. Go around the barn at high noon to avoid the colloquialisms. Colloquial terms, better avoid. These are all, that very, very essential, when you write a thesis, keep in mind working on it. And maybe, that I have, a personal work like that. I'm just giving, a consolidated report on my presentation, like avoid glittering generalities, broad sweeping statements. Right, that in our society today, or it is a growing problem that sweeping statements. Other day, that I came across, something without, a subject word, sometimes, you write without subject word. Uncame postmodernism, right? Uncame and came postmodernism. To my understanding, knowledge, that I marked, this as something, wrong. Uncame postmodernism with a bang, right? Now you may ask, that it is easy to understand, sir, what's wrong in it? But you are writing a thesis, right? You are writing a thesis. Not that, you are trying to impress people by speaking like, no, please keep in mind. So, avoid glittering generalities, broad sweeping statements, may make a short paper seem grander and more substantive. But the flashy words won't fool your reader or instructor, as such. Throughout the ages, mankind has found many uses for salt. Ancient tribes, used it to preserve meat. Around the world, it adds, flavor to food. The Bible uses it as a symbol of zest for life. Salt became such an important part of people's lives that a way was needed to allow every nomads, I'm quoting, right, to carry salt with them on their perilous travels. Such a device ideally also helps ancient garmentizers, to distribute portions of the precious flavor enhanced onto their foods. Right. So, T.S. Eliot, right, not necessarily the most famous modern poet, that you'll have to mention, he is popular. So, if your research doesn't actually examine all chapters, right, all famous poets, all people, such a way claims, right, adds nothing to your argument. So, better avoid, such things. Who needs, rhetorical questions? And exaggeration, a billion times, worse than understatement. Last one. My humble request, to all these people, who are watching, for the past 1 hour, proofread, carefully to see any words are out, any words misspelled, any expressions not properly displayed, any quotations, relevant quotations, not properly documented. If you take care of, this child, the child, grows very big. And the child, that starts attracting, the people who are coming close to you for reading purpose. I'm making, every thesis, every writing a child. That's why, this presentation. Maybe, 1 hour is not sufficient. I told you in the beginning. For teaching methodology and writing, what is essentially a chalk and a board online. And that is actually the need of the day. I think, that I have done, a bit. Maybe the rest, this bit, can be enlarged. This bit, can be made as a huge thing. And that thing, will travel with you a lot, making your writing wonderful, cherishable, chewable, and also excellent. Sorry, I'm using, all adjectives in the end. And this is for motivation, right? Read MLA handbook, read the APM method, make your thesis real, make your thesis observable, right? Thanks, Raju, and thanks to my principal, and thanks the team behind making the technology support strong. And this is the first attempt of Raju, and Raju should be appreciated. And people came in a large in number. I don't know the exact number, but I think most of you listen me. I still listen people, right? I'm eager to also, but want of time, and I have personal. I'll have to leave. Maybe you can put all your questions to my mail. I'll certainly help. And if you send your mail, I'll attach a gift, that is writing gift. Already that I send it to Raju, he will send it. I have more, right? And you will also get more. Thank you. Thanks again. Raju?
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for a very wonderful speech.
Raju?
Yeah. Do you hear me, Anna? Do you hear me? Hello? Anna, do you hear me? Madam Devaki, madam, do
Hello?
you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can
Sir?
hear you, sir.
Hello, sir.
Raju கேக்கல.
Yeah, நீங்க பேசுறது எனக்கு கேக்குதுண்ணா.
ஆனா நீங்க பேசுறது எனக்கு கேக்கலையே.
ஓகே. இப்ப கேக்குதாண்ணா?
அது இல்ல, நான் காது பக்கத்துல தான் பேசுறேன்.
அப்படியா?
ஆமா.
Right, okay, Anna. Okay, thank you so much for a very wonderful lecture, Anna.
சரி.
Yes.
எனக்கு क्वेश्चंस ஏதாவது இருந்தா நீங்க அனுப்பிச்சு விடுங்க, I'll respond them.
Yeah.
நான்
Yes.
நானே 12:30 அங்க இருக்கணும் ஹாஸ்பிடல்ல.
எத்தனை மணிக்கு?
12:30.
12:30. Okay, there are some questions in the chat box, sir. Uma,
Sorry.
please forward that to sir.
Yeah, yes, sir. Sir, thank you for your wonderful presentation, sir. And
Have a care and then bye.
yeah. So we have a question from participants.
Yeah, just read one of the questions.
Yes, sir. Sir. Sir, may I ask you, sir? Sir?
Anna, do you hear me?
Sir? Sir?
Anna,
Sir?
do you hear me?
Sir, I think the resource person has some internet problem.
Uma, text him the questions.
Yeah. Okay, sir.
Okay, just text him the questions. Because he has got some internet problem with him.
Yeah, okay, sir. Can I?
Hello?
I think he told he has to go to the hospital by 12:30. So maybe you would have left.
Uma, do you hear me? Uma, do you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Uma?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Yeah, Uma, just text the message
Yeah.
or ask the question to the resource person.
Yeah, sir. So I have.
Yeah, he has just left inadvertently. He'll be coming back.
Oh, okay, sir. So I need a help from Marish, sir.
Marish?
Yes, sir.
Ah.
Anna, can we question? Anna? Marish, sir? Hello?
He is yet to come. Uma, you can post the feedback form.
Okay, sir. Okay,
You
sir.
can post
Okay,
the
sir.
feedback.
Okay, sir.
Dear participants, do you hear me?
Yes, sir. It is audible, sir.
Yeah, dear participants, Dr. Baskaran has left the meeting for some urgent work, and we will give you his mail ID. If you have any questions, you can mail him and he'll definitely answer you. He has just informed me that he is leaving because of some urgent work. Thank you, participants. The feedback link has been provided. So please complete them and send us immediately. And we will be conducting a series of lectures on all Fridays for the next 4 weeks. So please do join us and get enriched. And Uma, you please continue.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. And now I thank you, our resource person, for a informative session. And sir, and kind request to the participants. Our feedback link will posted in our chat box. And also on another request to the participants to fill the feedback form within couple of hours, because the form will be closed exactly 3 p.m. Okay, thank you. And moving on to the end of the session, may I now call upon Dr. Devaki ma'am, Assistant Professor of English, Organizing Secretary of this program, Yadava College, to propose vote of thanks. Ma'am, the session is over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Uma. A well begun is half done. So we are very much happy and sure about the success of this program. The moment Dr. Bhaskar gave his consent to inaugurate our lecture series. So thank you, sir, for always being a pillar of support for our endeavors, right from researcher and residence program, and now to a larger audience in a most advanced platform. So your session is a torchbearer, not only for the research scholars, but to many research supervisors also. So right from the title, review of literature, do's and don'ts, style of sentences, and I think it will be very resourceful for us. So with more than 100 thesis evaluations and 300 corrections, your lecture has been a very spontaneous overflow of your decades of research guidance, sir. So we are very proud to have you with us. I thank our principal for his good wishes and support for the program, and the wonderful audience for sharing such enthusiasm and participation. So from the desk of organizing team, thank you one and all. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. And it's a kind notice for the participants. The participant will receive their certificates within 7 working days. And also, another information for the participant, the recorded lecture will be uploaded on our department YouTube channel. The channel name is Department of English Aided Yadava College. And thank you for the participants. And once again, thank you all from the bottom of my heart. And thank you.
A kind information to the participants. Since the feedback link is not in a proper way, we will send the feedback link in the WhatsApp group for your response.